Are you excited? I'm excited. I know. We're actually going to be doing something to the Jeep this time. I haven't been working on this much because it's been doing, pretty much okay. But I finally got something in the mail, and the weather isn't freezing or raining, so it's time to do some fun. Let's do it. So, today's topic is going to be steering. So as of right now, I got a rough country heavy-duty tie rod, and that's about it. Everything else is stock. And it does okay. I've been trying to grease it, every month or so just to try to get the crap out of it after, big trips and stuff like that. But she's still feeling a little loosey-goosey. So, I've got some big plans for the steering, but for now, I'm going to upgrade the steering to something a little tougher. So first off, let's have ourselves a little steering lesson for heavy-duty steering and stuff like that. So real quick, we'll go over the components. Up here, this arm, this is your pitman arm that comes off your steering box, which is up there. Your steering box is connected to your steering wheel that does the left and right things. Off the pitman arm is called your drag link. So what that does is that connects to either one of the wheels or your tie rod. So your tie rod is here. Your tie rod ties your tie rod ends together. So your drag link and your tie rod move your wheels. The way that they connect to your knuckles is what kind of steering it is. So this steering right here is what's called I believe it's an inverted Y, or just Y steering. And what that means is our drag link goes from the pitman arm to our passenger knuckle, and then our tie rod connects to the middle of the drag link and the driver knuckle. A lot of people, you'll see, they do a 1-ton steering upgrade. That is an inverted T setup. So what happens is the tie rod goes from the driver knuckle to the passenger knuckle. So it's one bar connecting both tires, and then your drag link connects just to the center of the tie rod. When you do this with tie rod ends, you get something called tie rod roll. When the steering goes to push, the thing actually rolls one way, and then when you pull it, it rolls the other way before it moves. So you get this back and forth moment, which is like a dead spot. Now you can get the plastic spacers and stuff that kind of band-aid the problem, but it's kind of hard to get around. So besides that issue, inverted T is very strong. The next one would be crossover steering, but that one you need special knuckles for. Basically, you still have your tie rod knuckle to knuckle, but then you have a second part on the knuckle where the drag link connects directly to the knuckle as well. So with crossover steering, there's no tie rod roll, and that's probably the strongest and best, but again, you need to swap your knuckles. I think usually that's a WJ swap. Then you have things called under the knuckle and over the knuckle. So this steering is under the knuckle. What that means is if we come over here, our tie rod end is underneath the knuckle. It mounts to the bottom. You can get something called an over the knuckle kit where it mounts to the top. And what that does is it raises your steering up higher so that you don't bash it on rocks. That's great and all, but you need the clearance. Right now I'm having clearance issues just on my own with this steering because it starts knocking on that bolt over there with the stabilizer. But when you go over the knuckle, you're changing your steering angles. So that's another thing we have to go over. Since this vehicle has a track bar, it's got coil springs. The only thing that keeps the axle underneath centered is the track bar, which is this gray bar in the back. You see this guy with the bolt, and it comes up here, and it goes up to there. That over there is your track bar. So that holds the axle in place. When you're doing steering, you want to make sure that your track bar and your drag link have the same angles as they come down. And understand that when I say angles, I don't mean the angle of the actual bar itself, but the angle from the finish point to the end point. You could, do loop-de-loops and all kinds of curves and stuff in the bar, but that doesn't actually change the end points, and that is what actually matters. So you go from this point over here to that point over there, and that is your straight line, okay? You don't worry about the S-curve and all that stuff. That doesn't affect the thing at all. So when you're building steering, you want to make sure that those two angles over here come down at the same degree. Because if they're at a line, that's when you start getting bump steer as well. So when you go over the knuckle, that's raising your drag link. So then what you have to do is raise the track bar. So that's why you'll see like raised track bar mounts. A lot of people ask about drop pitman arms. If you drop the pitman arm, you have to drop the track bar. So you can't really mess with one unless you mess with the other. So that's another thing you got to check. After tie rods, you can also do something called Heim joints, and I actually have a Heim right now on my track bar. So this over here, that's a Heim joint. So what that is, it's basically like a ball and socket design. And they're supposed to be self-lubricating and all that, and you know, stuff like that. So you can get those, and those are pretty cool. I don't know how the mud is going to treat them. I've had this one since I've had my 4.5 lift, and it looks okay, I guess. It's a little dirty, but you know. So the reason why I chose this kit is because with the Heim joints, it allows you to go over the knuckle but still keep your steering angles. So what's happening is our drag link can still go under the knuckle, but then our tie rod can go over the knuckle. So we have higher steering there, and we still keep our good steering. So that's something that you can't really say about over the knuckle inverted T for tie rod. So enough blabbering. Hopefully you kind of get the point on that. Let's see how hard it is to actually put the damn thing in. Alright, so here it is. Iron Rock Off-Road over the knuckle steering kit. I went with the 1/2 inch version because I don't feel like drilling out my knuckles, because I like to have the ability to go back to old setups if need be. So this is what it comes with. You get yourself a nice beefy tie rod, nice beefy drag link, all your Heims and hardware, and some instructions. Now, a reason why I snagged this, I've had my eye on it for quite a while. Their Black Friday deal was incredible. I saved over $100 on the steering and the steering box, and I got free shipping. I couldn't say no. This savings was just, it was great. So now we have this, and we gotta make a nice video. All right, take a look at that beauty. So you notice we got some bends in here. I'm assuming that is to help us clear everything, so that's really cool. And drag link's got a couple bends here and there. And these are split design, it looks like. Or at least that one is, so there must be a clamp that tightens that one down. It's probably for the adjuster. So here's our adjuster. And this will allow you to make sure that your steering wheel is straight. We got our 4 Heim joints over here. Oh, they even got little rubber booties on there to save the threads. Nice, I like that. And a nice beefy hardware kit. And again, like I said, this is the 1/2 inch kit, so it doesn't require any modification. I think this comes with tie rod or knuckle something or others, like a taper insert, so you don't have to drill it. You just, yeah, like this guy right here, you push this in and it's tapered, so it makes it like straight again, and then you can put your bolt through that, so it's not weeble wobbling. With the 5/8 kit, you got to drill out all your components, and that's a pain. But if you're into, you know, strong beefy stuff, you can always do that, and I'm sure you could upgrade later. And to just give you a sneak preview, that's what it looks like. So you can see how our drag link comes up here and goes under the knuckle, so that these two angles right here follow each other perfectly. And now our tie rod gets moved onto the top, so we have an over the knuckle, but we still keep all our factory steering angles in check, which is really cool. Let's jack it up, pull the tires off, and get to work. Okay, so it's always a good idea just to check and see if you have all the parts. So this is what we got laid out. I don't know where everything goes yet, but we'll find out eventually. And as for fitment requirements for this guy, you're going to need at least 1 1/4 inch wheel spacers, or wheels with less than 4.5 inch back spacing. For a stock wheel, I believe it's 5.5 inch back spacing or something like that. So the wheels that I have are 3.75 inch back spacing, so that'll work fine. A lot of the aftermarket wheels you get will be anywhere from 4 to 3, so that'll work. And they say you need about 3 to 8 inches of suspension lift, and that's probably because of the drag link's going to be a little longer. Okay, make sure your axle's nice and supported on both ends, and if you're not sure about it, give it a nice shake test. Grab the truck and really move it around, make sure she doesn't go anywhere. So when you know she's on there nice and tight, you can take your tires off. If you don't have an impact gun, you're going to want to loosen up these lug nuts before you jack it up. So the first thing you do before you take anything apart is you're going to measure one knuckle to the other knuckle, because what you need is your toe-in adjustment here. So this measurement will be applied to your new tie rod when you put it on. So this is an important measurement. You kind of have to do this when it's all connected. So you take this measuring tape and you put it on here. You want to be on the center of the bolt. And then you'll finish over here on the center of this bolt. So you're going to take that measurement and you're going to record that for later use. Then you can start having fun. Mine was at about 52 inches and maybe a 16th or two. So I'll keep that in mind, write it down, and get to work. Okay, so first up on the instructions is preparing everything for installation. I'm assuming that they tell you to do this first, just so you make sure you have all the parts you need, in case you didn't go over the list. Number 5, apply anti-seize compound to all the spherical rod ends, which are these Heim joints. So we're going to apply them to the threads and also to the adjuster. One of the clamps is actually for your steering stabilizer, if you'd like to use that. So that gets installed on here, on the tie rod, which is the longer bar. Orientation is irrelevant. So for the tie rod, we're going to install some anti-seize on the threads. We're going to put our jam nut on, finger tight, and then we're going to thread this guy in. So we're going to have one on each side. So tie rod over here gets a Heim and one of the nuts. Same over here, we get a Heim and a nut. This gets one clamp in the middle for the steering stabilizer. Now onto the drag link, the part with the bigger bend is the one near the axle. So this one gets a Heim and a steering clamp. Now the other end, that's a lot straighter, gets 2 steering clamps, the adjuster. Now this guy's a left-handed thread, so that'll throw you a curveball. Make sure lefty-tighty, righty-loosey on that one. And then a Heim into this guy. And what we're going to do is adjust this to the measurement that we took. So the center of this to the center of that is going to be the measurement we wrote down up here, which is 52 and 1/16. So when we adjust our tie rod here, you want to make sure you do this in equal lengths. So I threaded both of these in as far as they'll go, and we'll back these out. We'll back this out one turn, back that one out one turn, and go back and forth. Since these are both right-hand threads, you cannot adjust this on the vehicle. You'll have to take one of these ends out in order to adjust it. So it's important to do this before it's all installed. Okay, so first off, we got to dump all the stock steering components. So it's pretty simple. We're going to remove these cotter pins. So you take yourself needle nose pliers, bend these legs out, pull it through. You can use a flathead and hammer this to pull it out. It makes it a little easier if it gets stuck. I believe these are 3/4 inch nuts, castle nuts. They shouldn't be on there super tight. So we'll loosen them. Yeah, das bend is very good. Get out of there. Yeah. So punk, tell me, are you feeling lucky? Yeah. Alright, gotta get yourself some PP blaster. Give her a nice spritzing. Get yourself a nice BFH. Curse words and angry faces are optional, but help. You go, who's your daddy? Hoi! Who's your daddy? Hoi! Yeah. And we can zip that off and she'll come right off. Going down. Excellent. Alright, and we'll repeat. Okay, so we got this one off. That one went pretty easy. This one's giving me a real pain, but I kind of figured it would. I had issues with that before. I tried hitting it on both ends with big sledges, and that didn't do anything. We tried using a one of these here guys, and I actually split the thing right in half. I hammered it back together, but it's kind of useless. So I think I'm going to go have to get a tie rod puller thingy. Okay, so hopefully you can hear me through all this, but we get our tie rod end remover, 27-27-6. So hopefully this will help us get that pesky tie rod off. So, pretty simple little device. You just screw down and hope for the best. So I'm going to tighten this down until I can't anymore. We're going to beat the shit out of that pitman arm, and hopefully she'll get free. So this is how it gets set up. A little clampy at the bottom, pushy thing on the tie rod, and we tighten it with a 3/4 inch nut socket. So now we tighten that down. Although you might want to put an impact on here, it's usually not the best idea. It's better to do it by hand because these things are fragile and they're gonna break. So hopefully this tool doesn't explode in my face. May get some glasses just in case, but you just keep tightening it and hope that eventually this thing puts enough force on there to pop the goddamn thing free. Okay, so I tightened it down and I actually gave this part a little wiggle down here and she finally broke free. So she was in there good. Stubborn little thing. Cool. Only thing left is the steering stabilizer bar now, and those can also be rather annoying. Okay, so I took off the nut from this side because I'm pretty sure they come with a bolt that replaces the that whole everything. So that was an 11/16. So I took that off. There was a washer on mine, and a nut. The washer is what was holding it on. So once the washer popped free, it came off pretty easy. So now you can take the nuts out of everything else, and she's all free. So you can move that junk on out of there, and we can work on the fun stuff. Sweet. Number 16 says to clean mounting surfaces of all spherical rod ends using a file. Mounting surfaces must be flat and free of high spots. So I took myself a flat file, and I did just that. So you can use a smaller one like that. I use this bigger guy over here. And what you're doing is just making sure there's nothing out of the ordinary on here. So just check her out real quick. Make sure there's nothing high or bad. It's all flat and purty. And then you're good to go. Out of our, what are these, zinc-plated bolts, I guess? Whatever the shiny golden-looking ones are. We got a 3-inch, a 3 3/4, and a 4 1/2. So this guy we're going to install first. It says for number 17, we're going to install the driver's side of the tie rod first. So we want one of these guys. And we want 3 1/2-inch washers, which I believe are the bigger ones. And 1 1/2-inch hex nut, and 1 tapered adapter. So we want an adapter, and we got a hex nut, like so. Okay, so the first thing we do is we take this tapered adapter, and we put it in through the bottom, since that's how it came from the factory. And you push it on in there as far as it goes. They said if it sticks out of the top, then you have to grind it flat. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and get a punch or, I don't know, something, and see if we can hammer that in as far as it can go, because that's what makes this flatten work and all that good stuff. So I got myself a little punch and hammer, and we give it the old tappy tap tap from the bottom. So now it's up there a little bit. So she is firmly seated. Excellent. Let us continue. Alright, this might be a little tricky, so hold on to your hat. Washer on das bolt. Bolt into here. Plus bolt. Bolt into hole. No? Oh boy. Okay, well that's cool. I guess when I hammered the that tapered adapter up into there, it actually, I don't know if it shrunk a little bit or what, but I just had to tap it a little bit with a hammer, and actually it sits in place pretty well now, so that's cool. Makes this job a lot easier. So now we take das second washer, yeah, and we take das Heim joint, yeah. Okay, like so, very nice. And then we take a third washer, like so, and the nut. And this is a regular nut, not the lock washer one with the nylon insert. Alright, cool. And there we have it. The driver's side is done. So now we have to come over to the drag link over here. The side that does not have the double end adjuster, which is going to go on the axle. They say the threads need to stick out anywhere from a 1/2 inch to 5/8. So we come in here, like so. And you'll notice we are around the 5/8 mark. So maybe I'll screw it in a turn or two, but that's about all you need sticking out of there. There you go, that looks pretty good. So this guy's going to go on the bottom, and then the other side of the tie rod is going to go on the top. Okay, so now we're going to want the biggest bolt, the 4 1/2-inch bolt, which is the 1/2 inch by 4 1/2. We're going to need 2 of those 1/2 inch washers, 1 1/2 inch hex, and one of these 1/2 inch locking nuts. We're going to need one of these tapered adapters, and we're going to want 2 of our misalignment spacers. Sweet. Okay, so first up, I'm going to knock this guy into place. Okay, she doesn't stick out the top, so we can move on. So what we're going to do is this guy is going to go at the bottom, and this guy is going to go at the top. So we have a bolt, high misalignment spacer. We're going to slide that through the rod end like so. Then we're going to take our next high misalignment spacer, make sure it goes on the opposite way so that it actually functions. See what I'm saying? Then we're going to take this assembly, we're going to put it through the knuckle, and then after the knuckle, same as the other side, we're going to have a washer, then this end, then another washer, then a regular nut. Now they're saying to apply some high-strength thread locker to this, like the red stuff, and that gets tightened to 105 foot-pounds. Okay, so when you're all said and done, it should look a little something like this. Okay, so the way that I found is this tie rod has a bend in it, so make sure that the bend is fully facing out, because that's what's going to give you your clearance. And what you do is, instead of pushing this bolt all the way through, you get this on there, and you have the bolt down at the bottom, and you slide the bolt up, because this isn't going to be able to go up and around with this guy in the way. So now that that's good, we can tighten that down. We'll add our thread locker, and we'll give her the torque spake. Okay, so I don't have red on hand, but I do have some blue, so that should be better than nothing. So we're going to apply it up here, and we're going to tighten that down to 105 foot-pounds. I got one of these guys. I prefer the dial a little bit more, because you can calibrate them on the fly, so you know that they're accurate. Alright, let's crank it down. Use yourself a 3/4 inch something or other to hold the bottom bolt so she don't spin, and then torque the top. So we are all the way up to 105. Very good. We got our blue Loctite on. Happy dappy do. Alright. Okay, don't forget your lock nut as well. That one also gets 105 foot-pounds. So when you're tightening it, make sure that your socket only sits on the top one, not the bottom one too. That way you're tightening the right one. And again, you're going to have to hold the bottom so it doesn't spin. So now she's locked in there pretty good. Sweet. Next up is going to be the drag link to pitman arm connection. So we're going to pick our last bolt right here, our 1/2 inch by 3 3/4. 1/2 inch hex nut. I think it's this one. We're going to need one lock nut, one tapered adapter, and 2 high misalignment spaces. Sweet. Again, take our little adapter and put it in there from the bottom. Hammer it up in there. Doesn't stick out the top, so we're good there. So now we can take our bolt with a misalignment spacer on like so. We'll slide that through our rod end. Put another misalignment spacer on there. We'll put that whole assembly through to the top. And it's a little weird, it doesn't mention a washer on this connection. They just say the nut and the lock nut. I don't know, it seems a little weird. Alright, so they don't mention this in the instructions, but I'm going to assume it's kind of important that this double adjuster is also kind of equal the way that the tie rod ends have to be. So I got this one threaded in all the way. Remember, that's righty-tighty. And I got this one threaded in all the way. Remember, this one's lefty-tighty. So now that that's there, when we loosen it, it will extend or contract instead of just going one way or the other because of the different threads. So now I guess I'll put that in there. Okay, this one will get the same treatment as the other. Blue Loctite and 105 foot-pounds on both nuts. So make sure you really get her in there. Hole on the top never hurt nobody. Okay, so once you're all done, it should look something like that. Misalignment, misalignment, nut, nut. And we got some thread locker on there. 105 foot-pounds for both of them. A little tricky getting in there, but it's possible. Okay, so now that the whole system is actually installed, we can mess around with it. So the next thing says that the this drag link has to be tightened down so that it sits at a 5-degree angle facing upwards. So it's hard to get you level here. 5 degrees ain't much. And I would assume that it might even be a little bit more than this, but the way that I figured it out is that this can move up and down, and I just made sure that when it goes down and when it goes up, it just doesn't touch there. So it could still move up a little bit, because I think it's spun a bit. There we go. So that way when it sits down, it's like that. So as long as they don't contact, I figure everything's okay. So this one sits all the way down, and up here, that one will have to sit all the way down too. So we can spin that with our adjustable wrench, and then we'll tighten down the clamps to 70 foot-pounds. As for the tie rod, you just want to make sure that it bends outwards, so that way at full stop, it's not hitting anything. So I checked it on both sides and it looks good. So the next step is that we got to put the tires back on to check the toe. Okay, so 70 foot-pounds certainly is tight. So what I did is I held this back one up like here, so that way it stays up and I know it's not going any lower. But it took quite a few number of rotations to finally get that up to 70. So now we're looking good. And we're back with day 2. So I decided I'm going to do my brakes real quick because I knew when I did the tires I need them. What do you think? A little low, eh? At least they weren't down the middle. Still had like a 1/16 of an inch, probably another couple weeks, right? So yeah, I'll throw them on. We'll get back to putting the wheels on and adjusting. That's why dirt and mud sucks so much. It gums up everything. So what you want to do is take a file and sand all these flat parts right here. This one, and this one. So that way your pads move smoothly. Because if they don't float on here, they're going to get stuck and worn out real quick. So make sure you just hit them up with a file real quick. Like a flat file like one of these guys. Then they might actually last more than a freaking week.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
So we gotta put the tires on. Make sure that they don't have to be torqued to spec, but make sure the lug nuts are at least tight. And then we're gonna check toe in. All right, ain't that pretty? Okay, so next step is to turn the wheel. Just make sure nothing's binding up. It's buttery smooth. There's not a lot of wiggle either. Like she's tight. I like that. Okay, so this is full lock the one way. So come in here, no rim clearance issues. No clearance issues there. Coming over here, that's looking good. Nice, nice. No touching, no rubbing, no clunking, no nothing. Cool. Alright. Oh my god, it's amazing. There's no, like, any kind of free wiggle room at all. It's just tight and beautiful. Wow. These Heims are dreamy. Holy. Not bad. Alright, cool. And for diff cover clearance, I don't know what you can see that. I can't really. We got a solid amount of fucking distance there, though. Talking 2 fingers worth at least. That's a full lock. So, the way that they recommend you do this in the instructions is you pick 2 points on your tire, like one on each side. So make a little dot. And a little dot. Make sure they're facing all the way forward like that. And what you're going to do is measure from this dot to that dot and record that reading. And then you're going to turn the tires 180 and measure from that dot and that dot again, but on the back side. And what that does is make sure that you have a proper reading that's accurate. There's no worry about tire wear issues and run out issues and all that stuff throwing the reading off, because this is going to be a close reading. For small tires you need a 1/16 of an inch in the front, and for big tires you need 1/8 of an inch in the front. If we come out over here, professional alignment, 29 to 32 is 1/16 inch less, and 33 to 36 is 1/8 less. So that's all we do. So we'll take our readings and see what we get. And if our reading needs an adjustment, we take off the driver's side. That's why we didn't torque that one down yet. And we'll turn it out and see what we get. Okay, measuring on the front and the rear. The front was 50.5 inches, and the rear was 51 3/4. So that's way off. We have way too much toe in, so we're going to adjust that a bit and see if we can't get something a little more reasonable. Okay, so get yourself one of these here gear wrenches, 3/4 inch. That way you can slip it in there and do the work you need. Now, you won't be able to pick this bar up and get it out of the way of this thing, what you have to do instead is let the bolt drop down, and then you can pull it out. And again, same way, you got to push the bolt up just a little bit, and then put this on, and then slide it up and tighten it. So I spun that one out a full revolution, and I spun this one out a whole revolution. Half turn, whole turn. Try again. We'll take 2 measurements again and see how close we are now. But instead of measuring from the sidewall, I'm going to measure from, you know, the lug, where it's nice and flat, and it's flat all the way across. There's no bend, because when I had the bend out of the tape measure, it was just a pain in the ass. So now measuring from this corner all the way to this corner right here. Okay, so this is a little hard to do one-handed, but onto the lug, straight across to this lug, and we're looking at about 59 and 1/16. And on the back side, we're 59 and 3/16, so that's a perfect 1/8 toe-in difference. And all I had to do was adjust it a half turn. So it may be a little different on yours, but for mine, every half turn is an 1/8 of an inch difference, or at least from that. So that's all it was. It was only off by half a turn, but I guess that'll be enough. Okay, so next part is we can finally tighten down this nut once and for all. So we're going to back this off a little bit, get some of that Loctite in there, torque this bad boy to 105 foot-pounds, then we'll put the other nut on there, and another 105. Now I loosened up the lug nuts enough to push the wheel out of the way so I could get down to this. You may have to take the tire off. Alright, so now, if you got them, whip them out, get your 12-incher, 14-incher, 18-incher, whatever you're packing, and tighten up these tie rod nuts. You want them super tight, so as tight as you can get them. So they tell you to make sure that they're both rotated like down or whatever, they're both facing the same direction. So that one is down, and that one is down. And that's going to be the same for the drag link, so you notice this one's down, and that one's not fully down yet. But that's because we still got to do the adjuster. But we can turn this with a wrench, just rotate it down. So I think at this point we take it off the jacks, put it on the ground, straighten out the steering wheel. Next, what you want to do is make sure that your tires are pointing straight ahead, about as straight as you can get them. You'll probably have to drive it on the road and then adjust it again. Looks like my tires need to go a little bit to the left. Okay, so now what we're going to do is adjust the double adjuster so our steering wheel points straight, because if you notice, that ain't even close to straight. Now you want to make sure that you're doing the least amount of work possible, so obviously you want it to rotate counterclockwise, not go a full loop clockwise, because if you do that you'll lose a lot of steering or something will fall off. So what we're going to do is change that adjuster and rotate it until this wheel is straight. We're going to come down here and we're going to adjust this whichever way is necessary. We'll spin it and then see when we're good. Okay, so there we go. Tires are straight and the wheel is straight. Yay! And then once I drive it, I'm sure I'll find it'll be off about a little bit here or there, and then we'll come in and readjust. So for me, since I tightened both these down all the way, so that way I knew that they both had as much thread engagement as possible, I had to take the wrench and push it up like this. So that would be a clockwise motion to do what I had to do. So now we can tighten these clamps down, I guess, to 70 foot-pounds. Make sure that this guy's rotated down, which it looks like it just about is up against the stops. Yeah, see that how it moves a little bit? So it's got to go down a little bit more. Okay, tighten them up, and then we can put on the stabilizer. Okay, so once you crank these down and you're happy with that, and it faces down just like the other one faces down, so that's all happy. Last part's a steering stabilizer, so they tell you to put it in the middle of the travel and have your wheels in the middle, and then you can put everything through and tighten it up. So I guess you'd have to extend it all the way that you can, measure it, push it in all the way, measure it, and then go in the middle. And what they say is you get this in the center, and then you move this guy to meet up with it. So this little shock sleeve thing is going to go through there. Might need some grease to push it in. Got a washer on either end of this. and then one on top with the bolt, and you're good. It'll look something like this. I don't know if it matters whether the nut goes on the top or the bottom, but you know, sandwich washers on every part, and it gets torqued to 80 foot-pounds when it's in the center. Now I'm going to leave this loose because I just want to drive it around and see what it feels like without this stabilizer. Because when you have good steering, you don't really need one. I'm going to drive it around, make sure the steering wheel's straight and all that good stuff. Let's see how it is. Alright, on the road. Make sure those brakes still work. Pump them up a little bit. Squeaky. Oh my god. There's like very little dead zone, if anything. Like, this is amazing. That's nice. Oh, that's buttery. That is buttery. Wow. That's nice. Let's try some high speed. I wish I could find some bumps around to see if it pulls the steering at all when you hit them. Oh. Pretty firm though. If I turn the wheel, it moves. I like it. Wow. All I can say is wow. That's nice. Very tight and responsive. No dead stops. No bump stops. None of that crap. No clunking. She's a right nice beauty, mate. I like it. I like it a lot. Now I can't wait to actually try it on some real stuff. And yeah, even without the stabilizer, it didn't really seem like it was pulling me in any direction or bouncing around too much. But I'll probably still measure that out and mount it properly anyway. Okay, so don't forget step number 50. Make sure to install a sticker. Nice. Guess the off-road part's a little low, but oh well. Okay, well, I gotta say, I'm impressed. I really like this kit. I saw it online, and I like the steering angle design. You get over the knuckle, and you still keep your proper lines, which is awesome. That's very important for good steering. It's Heim's, so I'm wondering how well it's gonna hold up in the mud for the next couple years, but I like this. This is beef. I'm super happy with this. I really am. Steering's nice and tight and firm, and it's responsive, and I don't hear any noises. That's cool. Okay. So this guy has 8.5 inches of travel. So right now the steering is centered, so we're gonna measure that to 4.25 inches, and then we can tighten it down, and it should be good to go. All right, that bolt gets 80 foot-pounds, so that's at the 4-inch mark right there. I think that just about does it. So I noticed my stabilizer was leaking some kind of liquid. I thought it was just like mud or water or something that was stuck in the rubber, but that looks like oil to me. So I'm thinking this is actually getting compressed all the way because I can't turn it as hard passenger as I could driver. So I don't think this is adjusted properly. So we're going to loosen this up and see if that doesn't fix our drippy problem. So to properly adjust this thing and make sure that you don't completely destroy it, make sure to turn the tires all the way left and then move this in almost as far as you can and kind of tighten it just enough to hold on. Then push it all the way the other direction and see if it's overextended or underextended or something like that. Or overextend it and then bring it in a little bit, you know. Just make sure that it's connected and you go full lock to lock and make sure you're not squishing this. Because if you squish it, you're going to mess up your seals, your oil's going to leak out, and it's not going to do anything anyway. So make sure to do that. Alright, so one other thing that they don't mention in the instructions, but is something generally nice to do once you're done steering, is check your lock to lock and adjust your knuckle stop adjusters. That way, they actually do their job so that your tires don't eat up your control arms. So the knuckle adjuster is this little guy down here, that little bolt, and its job is to hit the knuckle before the tire does something it shouldn't. So what we're going to do is go lock to lock and check how close the tires are and adjust them so that they stop. You'd think, oh, well, why would I want to do that? It would limit my steering, but it's really nice to not eat up your tires all the time. Cutter all the way driver. Now for me, I should probably step my steering stops because the tires like to eat up those lower control arms quite a bit. Nice little rub-a-dub there. But that has nothing to do with steering. Well, after breaking that knuckle stop, I found out that that is what was stopping it. So that's a bitch. I was getting it to move for quite a while, but then when I tried to tighten it in, it finally just gave way. Oh well. So that's what it looks like when it's not broken. This stubborn little bastard. I ended up trying to back the nut out, but there's actually a weld on the bolt for some reason, so you can't back it out all the way. I was going to do the double nut method, but that didn't work. You just stripped the nut and it started spinning. So I welded the nut onto the bolt real good, and then I took a chisel, and you got to have a sledge. You got to have a really good fucking whack. But you start hitting straight in there to dig, and then you start going at an angle and trying to turn it, and hopefully eventually you'll get that thing turning. So she's moving now. It ain't easy. So now I'm just using some vice grips to get a good grip on them. And then once it catches, you fucker, she'll move. So, alright, once we get that out, I think I'll replace it. And then we'll adjust it so our tires don't rub our control arms anymore. Alright, got the little bastard out. Fucker. Okay, so they had two sizes. One was 1.25 inches, one was 1.5 inches. And I know every time I buy one, it's usually the other size. So if you buy two, then the first one you buy is usually right. So 1.25 inches is good. This one was like probably like a thread or two longer than 1.25 inches, but it's good enough. The only difference I notice is, besides that little weld mark right there, the head is kind of rounded. I don't know if that was like a factory thing or if the corners just got smushed in, but I don't know. It looks pretty evenly rounded. I don't know. But anyway, so we got a nut, and we got that threaded all the way in there. So what you do is you turn her all the way lock, and for us, we're trying to make sure that it doesn't hit that control arm over there. And then we'll tighten that. Well, I guess we back this out so that it contacts that knuckle, and then should be good. Then we just, you know, tighten down our little lock nut. So basically, you just come in here, and you keep listening until they kiss. And then once you notice that the tire starts to move out a little bit, then you can tighten down your lock nut. And then when you're done, it'll look like this. So when you tighten it, when you turn all the way, your tire shouldn't touch. And that's what you're looking for. So that's how you adjust your axle stops, if you didn't know what those were. And those are 3/8 by 24-inch thread, and they're 1.25 inches long if you're trying to find the stuff for that. I made sure to get grade 8 so that they won't fall apart or break anytime soon. Sweet. Okay, so I know it's dark and you can't see much, but oh my god, finally got to take it on a little bit of a longer drive, and it's amazing. It really is. So it handles. That's the thing. Like before, the steering was kind of loose, so when you tried doing like corners or, you know, squeezing through tight spots, you were a little worried. You know, I was rigging the wheel back and forth the whole time, trying to make sure it stays straight, and it you know, doesn't make you feel confident when you're not sure if the truck's going to go the direction you want it to. But with this, it is so tight. There's not even a second, you know, thought. It's just you turn the wheel, it goes where you want to. It feels really safe to drive now too. Like, oh my god, yes, this is good. I'm very impressed. I am super happy I snagged that deal on Black Friday. This is gorgeous. So, Iron Rock Off-Road, you guys are doing something right. Nicely done. Alright, well, hope that helps you make your decision on some steering. Keep you going in the right direction and stuff, okay?